Whew. So I just got back from work this morning and I want to show you something that arrived in my mailbox. I've been waiting for it for a few months now. Let's check it out. Boom. That is the postcard I've been waiting for. It is the finalization for permanent residence. Cha-ching, ching. Got it. So here I am at the post office. I'm about to pay 8,000 yen to obtain a revenue stamp showing that I have paid the price to apply for my permanent residence visa. こちらです。So you need your passport, this notice postcard, a revenue stamp, which I'm currently applying for, my residence card, which I have in my wallet, as well as my application receipt. Well, there you have it. We're gonna go ahead and get ready to go to the immigration office. You heard right, guys. I finally obtained my permanent residence after exactly 4 months and 1 week from submitting my application. Clifford from Telesin Tohoku here, and I want to make this short video. By no means consider this to be official legal advice. I am not an immigration lawyer, nor am I totally well versed in immigration law, but I want to go ahead and share the details of my story to encourage you guys to do it on your own should you be in a position to do so. But before I share a few more details, let me go ahead and get a little bit more comfortable. Whew. That feels better. All right, now to get started, if you go to the Immigration Bureau website on the Ministry of Justice webpage, you can find the PDF files for the basic application for permanent residence, as well as the letter of guarantee that you'll need. But beyond these documents, I had to supply a plethora of other things. The basic application, you'll need to fill out your basic biographical information, citizenship, address in Japan, your residence card number, your visa status, type of status, when it's going to renew itself, passport number, you get the idea. And then you have to kind of basically record a work history, brief work history. I was lucky enough to have worked for the same company for my entire time here in Japan, so that was very simple. I had to record my current company's employment, which again, for my case, it was the same. And then I also, not on the document itself, but I had to submit my statement of earnings from the previous tax year along that section. Then I had to provide some information, in my case, of my immediate family, my family that lives with me. And then I had to provide information on my guarantor, as well as my reason that I wanted to apply for permanent residence. Now, in addition to that 2-page application, I submitted a essay, both in English and Japanese. I got some help from a Japanese friend, citing in more detail why I wanted to stay in Japan and how I wanted to contribute to Japanese society. So that was that. In addition to that, what's not on the website, I had to fill out a family background, which is called the Shinzoku no概要. So on the Shinzoku no概要, the family background form, I had to fill out the names of all of my family, their relationship to me, their ages, their occupations, their jobs, their locations. And so I had to ask them for that information. And also, for good measure, I included the names and phone numbers of my wife's family, and luckily her family is a little smaller than mine. The next form I had to submit was called the住居報告書, or the report of residence, not to be confused with the residence certificate, or the住民票, which you can obtain from your local ward office. Now, on this 住居報告書, I had to indicate where I lived by attaching a map. I found it just on Google Earth. I attached a map with the nearest station as well as business nearest to my house. I had to indicate how many minutes, either by train or walking by bus, was my house from the nearest residence. And then I also had to indicate the building materials of my house, when it was made, whether I was renting or buying my house, as well as whether it was a 1-story or 2-story. So if you live in an apartment, obviously that information will be a little bit more simple, but I had to indicate, the measurements of my house. So that was really interesting. And then moving on to the more official documents that I obtained from my ward office, I had my住民票, which is my certificate of residence. I think I remember paying about 300 yen for that. The next thing I obtained from my local ward office was my certificate of taxes filed and certificate of taxes paid. And I got that for the previous 3
tax year, showing that I'm a good, law-abiding, tax-paying citizen. All right, so then the next thing I had to supply was a letter of guarantee, and this is probably the biggest hurdle for many people applying for permanent residence in Japan, is finding somebody who will be their guarantor. So basically what a guarantor does is they put their neck on the line by swearing that, you know, this person that they're underwriting is going to abide by the law, is a law-abiding citizen, and financially, should this person not be able to fulfill their financial obligations repatriating into their own country in the case that they do return, then I will cover that difference. So the role of a guarantor is a big deal. The reason why this matters is, you know, when you are working in Japan, income tax is generated based off of the previous work year. You know, if you're from another country like America, like I am, my income tax is deducted from my work based off of the current year, okay? But in Japan, you make a salary from the previous year, and then in the following year that you continue to be employed, your income taxes are generated and they're broken up over the next 12-month period. Now, where that comes into a big issue is if you leave Japan after a contract, then because you have not paid all of the income taxes from the previous year, you are required to pay that all in one lump sum instead of having it broken out over 12 months like you usually would should you continue to be employed in Japan. So that's a big financial obligation for anybody, and you need to save up for that. And if you are not able to meet that obligation before leaving, then a guarantor will necessarily have to foot part of the bill. In addition to my letter of guarantee, my guarantor had to submit their own certificate of taxes filed and paid for just the previous tax year. Then I had to submit a copy of a few pages from my bank book. I'm sure they're just trying to see how I spend my money. And then finally, I had to submit what's called a Zaishoku Shomeisho, or proof of employment, which is basically a letter on an official letterhead from my current employer indicating that I am indeed employed by them with their official stamp on it. So those were all the documents that I had to submit. Now you may be wondering, what are the benefits of applying for permanent residency? Well, one thing to establish is it is not the same as citizenship. I am still a citizen of the United States, but in applying for permanent residence, I show that I am here long-term. Among many things, I have no limitations upon the jobs that I want to choose. When you come here to Japan on a traditional visa, there are, I believe, 13 or 14 different categories of work visas. And if you are in one category of visa, you are only permitted to do work within that category. So I, being a specialist in humanities previously, was only able to qualify for work within that field, that being, namely for me, being an English conversation school teacher. So having permanent residence, I no longer have limitations on the type of jobs for which I can do. Additionally, employers do not have to sign as my guarantor to be able to employ me. So that's a benefit as well. An additional benefit is that the interest rates on things like credit cards, car loans, housing loans drop drastically when you've proven a track record of being here for a long time. So for those of you guys who are seeking to apply on your own, I waited the traditional 10 years before applying for my visa. I had heard anecdotally that if you've been married to a Japanese national for over 5 years, you could also apply in that way, and I had friends who did that. But in light of Japan's approaching population crisis, Japan has been trying to increase foreign workers to help bolster the economy, and they're relaxing some of the restrictions in order to apply for permanent residence. I'm not quite sure how the system goes. I know there's a point system for special permanent residence that if you reach a threshold of like 70 points, you qualify for being able to apply for permanent residence in as little as 1 year. So they're trying to encourage highly skilled workers along that route. Now, as a disclaimer, let me say that I'm pretty well versed in Japanese. I can survive on my own, and I have Japanese friends to help me out. And if you have neither of those, or if you don't feel confident in your Japanese level to fill out paperwork, maybe I would go to an immigration lawyer and go that route. But again, it can be done on your own, guys. Well, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, go ahead and click that like button. If you want to watch more videos about my life here in Tohoku, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. Thanks for watching, and check you guys on the flip side. Peace!